Tee up, everyone. Here's my stash. Tea.
Okay.
Tea stash. Oh, look at that.
How beautiful.
Right.
I love Earl Grey.
Not spill over the keyboard. What are you drinking, Faith? Got nothing to clean up with. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I have water in my mug because I put hot water on the stove and then forgot about it for 20 minutes and it all evaporated.
I've done that so many times.
Well, Earl Grey.
The house is about to catch fire. This is my usual iced matcha green tea.
Good.
I love when there's nobody to blame.
Oh, I've done that so many times. I'm not saying you're alone. Doesn't mean you're not an idiot.
That
Uh-oh.
is so funny.
The apple does not fall far from the pomegranate.
Hello, Graham.
Oh, Faith, I'm delighted to see you, my dear. Yeah.
And welcome back, everyone, to Tea at 3. Okay. Welcome back, everyone, to Tea at 3. I am Faye Schmidt, and this is Graham Kerr, and here we are again.
Good. Well, and I have to immediately say that you look wonderfully contrasted. Now, I love all of the places you've been, and I love the pictures that you come up with. But there has to be a reason why you faded to black. And I think I know what it is, but tell me. Yeah.
To be honest, part of it was that I couldn't think of something else, that I didn't want to be distracted by something else. I want to get down to the point. Yeah, we'll get more into that as we go throughout this conversation.
Okay. Well, you've got my full attention, but let me tell you just quickly how you got my attention last week. You felt that you were under a waterfall and you were trying to grope for a droplet of that waterfall, something that you could put your mind around and have it as an objective thing to ponder. And because there was so much of a deluge coming over you at that time, we decided that we would go looking at what it was to be pondering. You know, what does it mean to select a droplet out of a waterfall? And that's what I went away with. I've been under a waterfall all week. Have you ever been under a waterfall?
I have a couple times. Some of them, it hurt real bad, and some of them were just little.
I've been under about 3, and I chose them very carefully. It wasn't a total deluge, but it made me really think about the whole idea of our world today, which is so full of people talking, that it's like a massive rush of words coming over the lip of a waterfall and falling right on top of me. If I really allow myself to go to the media several times a day, I'm washed out, really. And I see the images now as well, and I am beaten up by it, frankly. And if anybody had said to me under the waterfall, what do you have to say about what you want to talk about? I'd say, just get me out from under here, you know. So what I did, I actually, and it took me several days, I actually put my hand out so as to let the water fall onto my hand, metaphorically. And then I walked out from under the waterfall and I sat down and I tipped most of the water out of the palm of my hand until I had a droplet left right in the middle of my hand there like that. And then I thought, now I really want to focus upon this, not that, not the rushing waters, just this. And that's what I feel is pondering. But I had to draw aside and I had to tip it out until I had a droplet left. Then I felt rested enough to be able to focus upon it. And I felt that I was restless under the waterfall, and I was more restful when I got it down to a little droplet. And then I thought about how you and I have been trying to find our way in doing this. We've really been focusing upon that, haven't we? Because we've knee-jerked. Knee-jerk is, and then you immediately respond to it. But pondering is taking it away tipping it off and looking at it over a whole week and coming back again. And I think if we did that, frankly, especially nowadays with what's going on in our lives, I think everything would be better than the knee-jerk reaction that we have, which causes some people to smash windows and other people to beat people over the head with a rod. It's all knee-jerk reaction. Really, it's not pondered, it's not well pondered. Now, because we've had several days, it's still knee-jerk because people are wanting us to knee-jerk instead of think it through and pray it through. And so that's what I think that we've been learning how to do, the two of us. And I think it's an extraordinarily wonderful idea. I didn't have it, and you didn't have it. We just fell into this as a method. And I love to listen to you because I'm nearly dead. 10 years, I'm gone. And 60 years, you're in my place. And I just love to be with you as I see a long road, and I've already taken the off-ramp, but you're still going. And I am so excited about the possibility of a better future for you. Right? And that's why I want to hear where you're going. I want to hear what it feels like.
Yeah, I think with the contrast this week of thinking between knee-jerk reactions and pondering, I completely empathize with everyone in their knee-jerk reaction of I am, if someone makes a strong statement, I have the immediate reaction of being defensive and assuming, my immediate assumption is that they mean whatever they're saying. It makes me feel like they believe I think the opposite, which is not at all what they mean.
Yeah.
But that's my immediate reaction when someone makes a strong statement is oh, you think I think the opposite of you? Well, that's not true. So blah, blah, blah. How dare you say that? And I'm wait, no. That's not what they said. Stop yourself. I need to physically restrain myself and be no, hold on. Think about it.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of that this week. A lot of strong statements and a lot of I think whenever there's a strong movement in the world, it's often boiled down to one little phrase. And while that is helpful in disseminating that idea, it's also people can interpret that one little phrase in so many different ways.
Yes.
And there's so much more behind it often. So what I've been thinking about this week is trying to take the phrases that are bouncing around social media right now and considering them for myself.
Okay.
I have I am by far the most nervous today than I have ever been in this conversation because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to offend anyone. I know that I have more to learn. These are the thoughts that I've had over a week, which is not a very long amount of time. And things that I'll continue thinking about, I'm sure, for a long time. And hopefully, we can all just remember to ponder a little.
Yeah, yes.
So I think I would like to start with a question for you, Graham. When you see a policeman or a cop car, are you more or less nervous?
More nervous. Because
why, do you think?
Well, I immediately look, I'm usually in my car when I see one. And so there I immediately look down to see how fast I'm driving and to see whether I just made a mistake. I did a little while ago creep round a corner on making a California right, at a stop sign. And the blue and white light came on behind me. It was a motorcycle cop. He came up, I wound down my window, he put his head in, he said, are you aware that there are signs with 6 sides and they're usually red? And I said, yes. And he said, and they have letters on them? And I said, yes. And he said, what do the letters actually, what are the letters? And I said, S-T-O-P. And he said, what in your judgment does that mean? And I said, oh, well, officer, yeah, so I crept round the corner and do they mean stop? Yes, yes, officer, they mean stop. Good. Well, I just wanted to be sure about that one, that you knew that. And I said, yeah, well, I am guilty of that and I'm sorry. Oh, he said, please, please don't have to tell me you're sorry. I'm the one who's sorry. And I said, well, what are you sorry about? He said, I have to drive my bike over the place. That's my job. And every now and again, I have to go to an accident at a corner like this. And the person says to me, yeah, I didn't see the sign. Or they didn't see the other person coming. They didn't see something. But I have blood on the road. And you have no idea how sorry that makes me feel. Now, I'm not writing you a ticket. Just be careful, please. And then drove off. I mean, he might as well have had wings. You know, that guy really taught me a lesson. That why should I always think that they are going to get me? What about my behavior that gets to them? So that was the difference. That's what happened to me. It doesn't stop me from being nervous when I see something. Yeah. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I think that I am always more nervous too. I think part of that is because if that person, that person has, we have given them the power to, like they could decide to give me a ticket, and I'm in a financial situation right now where like a ticket would vastly change the next couple months of my life. Like,
yes.
I would have to buy much cheaper food and like make some arrangements around that because that's the financial place where I'm in now. And I try and take that nervousness and amplify that by like, that person could decide to end your life.
Yeah.
We have given that person the power to do that. And sometimes without consequence.
Yeah.
And that terrifies me. And that's so much scarier for other people that person is prejudiced against. And so with that, when my social media is filled with the phrase, defund the police, while like initially that's an intimidating phrase, obviously there is some change that needs to happen there.
Yes.
If we have created a system where there is murder without consequence.
Yes.
I don't feel good about my tax money going to that system. So if it's possible to take some of that and put it towards like more conflict mediation and more education, then I would rather that be the case. So taking that phrase, which is initially very intimidating, defund the police, and thinking about it for a week and thinking, yes, I would rather my tax money go towards education than guns. if those are the two things on either side of the scale in my thought.
Yes. Yeah. Can I just give you a phrase which has dropped into my mind, I promise you, at this very moment listening to you?
Yeah.
Now, because I'm taking a risk in this one too, because no, I'm not taking a risk. I'm talking to you as a person, and you're a person, and I don't really care about who's watching. I mean, I'm pleased that they do, but I'm not here to convince them of anything, and I'm not here to convince you of it either. I'm simply seeking a way that we can be more resilient in the future than we are at the present moment. Okay,
Yeah.
So, and that's my real focus. That's what I'm doing. So how about help the force to focus? In other words, why not have a police force which is focused upon the criminal intent of some? Whether they're black, white, or whatever color they are doesn't really matter. What matters is that they are breaking the law and hurting other people as a result of it. I would like them to be there, to be focused on that. And I think we could focus their attention on that and have other people doing the medication issue with people with drug and other people where there's a domestic upset in some way and a better skill at being able to do with this. I think that makes an awful lot of sense. So maybe, one of the worst things in my mind is where we have this idea that we're really barbarians, all of us, and that if we don't have constricted law wrapped around us, there's just nothing that we won't do to each other to harm each other. And I'm not prepared to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I think for the most part, if I look upon the United States of America and my experience of being a citizen here, I think people actually care about each other in a really demonstrative, laudable way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think people are inherently caring, and I think that like hate and prejudice and racism against specific people is learned. And so if we can make changes in our education that doesn't teach that, like, I don't think it's intentional. I don't think people are intentionally teaching hate, but because a long time ago there were slaves, and so the people of color were the people that people understood to be beneath them in that way, and that has like bled through into the future for so long now that that like inherent viewpoint is like unintentionally still there. I think there's a lot of work to be done in little ways to like bolster up our education system so that people aren't learning that now, hundreds of years after that was an issue. Like,
yes. I don't know how we do that, my dear, other than put a very fine sieve over the top of Niagara Falls before it gets to go over the edge, so that it catches the debris before it goes over the edge in the waterfall, because it's debris which is doing the damage. The water isn't really doing the damage. Our life is actually pretty wonderful. It's just the odd pieces of really nasty stuff that go over the edge and which cause pain and difficulty. And we somehow got to slip.
I think doing things like this, just like having a conversation, like we said last week, like religion and politics and things like racism are things that we don't talk about. Like, I grew up going to like in a Christian home, going to a Christian school, then I went to a Christian university. Like, I have not had these conversations. I am aware. I do not know very much about this situation. I don't have the right things to say. And I think the fact that there is such a big movement in the US right now is giving us the opportunity to not feel scared to talk about it anymore. Like, we should talk about it. We should educate ourselves more about it. And I'm not saying I did that in a week, but I'm saying I'm committed to continuing to do that and to talk to my family and my friends and all that kind of, like, just bring it up. If it's something that's taboo, it's never going to change. Like, if nobody's ever talking about it or learning about it, it's just going to stay the same forever. So I think that just doing something like talking about it with you is one of the little steps we can do To maybe make it better.
Faith, you just made a somewhat elderly man cry. And I'm crying because of hope. You just put some bounce back into the world. If we can talk about things, it'll bounce. If we don't talk about it, it will simply deflate and it'll never bounce again. That word hope is a bouncing word. And we have to find a way to get better, or we have to, in some, which I think undesirable Christian way, is think, oh, come quickly, Lord Jesus, and get us out of here. I think that is the most hopeless statement that I can say about humankind. And I know that there are friends of mine who will jump all over me for that, but because we will be absent my body and present with the Lord, and nothing else matters. That's amazing. But it does matter because I have a life to live now, and then I have that end of my life here, and it's what I do between here and here that matters. It does matter. And that's what I so believe, that by you and I talking like this, I'm so close to going home that I could say, I'll fold my hands and it'll all go away and I will die, and maybe it won't get too bad before I go. I can't do that. I have to somehow hold this baton of hope I have and pass it on somehow in this race of humanity. We're a human race. Come on, let us operate at our best that we can for one another. That to me is resilience, the ability to bounce back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You see, in Revelation, now I've been studying the word for 44 years, so forgive me for this, but I transfer scriptures into my journal every day. I've done this since 1980. I have hundreds of scriptures that I've handwritten from one source to another. So is there a part of me which is fashioned by that? You bet your boots. I mean, I spend more time reading that than I most other things. So I can't just take that and put that on one side. It's Revelations in the second chapter, in verse 27. Jesus is saying to those people who overcome, I'm going to give you an iron scepter with the authority that has been given to me. I'm giving it to you so that it can be used to crush nations. And I look at that, and I look at the truncheons in the policeman's hands beating people over the head that don't seem to have any reason to be beaten. And I'm thinking, that's an iron rod, and there's the authority beating other people. And there's a scripture I do not like. All right? So what does that do to me? There are some people who said to me, really, you should be quiet about the things you don't like. Really? Then am I being real, or am I being suffocatingly spiritual? I'm saying all of it is absolutely fine. It's all for one reason or another. And that's what everybody says. And I understand, but please, I can't get over the fact that I saw truncheons being used and the words saying that there's an authority given to people in authority that can be used to crush nations. I want to love nations. I want to do whatever I can to make things better in the world. And I don't think I will actually ever want to see nations crushed. Now, that's my view of the thing. It's a very strong view, and I think it's a God-given view. I think he would prefer that. Now, maybe it's true to say that he knows all things, is waiting at the end of life for us to arrive, and that's a wonderful statement. And that he knows exactly what's going to happen, that nations are going to have to be crushed. I don't know the answer to that one. I just know that for me, right now, I don't want to crush anybody. I want to hug them and try and make it better.
Yeah. I think so. One of the things that I thought about this week was your idea of ways to sow little seeds of love in the crack that for
Oh,
grass
yes.
to grow in the crack. So I was thinking of it as I think my way of showing love in this was to participate in the community coming together to protest a system that teaches brutality and violence. So I participated in a march in my town in Spokane. It was peaceful when I was there. And another step beyond that was my husband and I donated what we could to a bail relief system. And I think something that we are, so unlike the virus, this is not a new issue. And because of that, we're not helpless. We are not without information. Like there are so many experts on like ways to improve education systems and like the right things to learn and where like changes we need to make. Like we're not experts, us too, we're not experts, but like there are a lot of experts out there in this specific thing that people have been thinking about for years and years and years. And so we can go to those sources and learn right away. Like this is so much more of an issue that we can work on, unlike the virus where like we don't know really what it does still, or how to fix it. So I think that's nice that there's almost an easier way to have hope, even though this is, I feel like, a longer and more difficult issue.
Yes. What you're talking about, you went out the other day and you marched. Mm-hmm. So you went with your physical presence and you added your physical presence to it. So when the time comes and you have children, you can go to the Parent Teachers Association and you can be present there. You can go to any kind of meeting that is being held now to try and talk about a better future. And when you do that, you are once again, you are protesting. You're protesting in an exceptionally positive way because you are turning up. Now that's really important. You know, and I want to get on to what we're going to move beyond this thing, if I can, because I'm so grateful for what you and Jacob have done this week, and for having the Black background as well. I understand that too. But I want us to keep on in this procession now, and we'll call it a march if you like, but it's a procession that I like, a celebration, if you will, of life, spilling out into like a desert. We're bringing life into a desert. So for me, during this week, what I did as the darkness began to creep into my life through the media and through the worlds, with the words hurled from one side against the other. I simply said, I took that scripture again. I'm not sermonizing. When Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest for your soul." I needed rest from all of this stuff. So I'm coming to sit here and I want to sit right side by side with you. And I don't want to say anything to you. I don't want you to do anything for me. I just want to be here. And I want you somehow by your sheer presence to put something into my life that will bring rest to me, a sense of rest. And you know what I got? Give some blood. That was it. And so I went to I looked it up, and my fire station down the road is going to have a blood drive in next month on the 24th. So I've signed up, because you have to sign up because you have to be socially distanced, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have blood taken out of my body and put into a flask and moved into somebody else's lives, into their thing. And it's tiny, and I can't give too much of it. And it doesn't feel comfortable. And yet it feels like the best thing I can do at the moment, because it dropped into my heart to do it. It was a droplet that wound up in the palm of my hand. I was able to do. And I think if we can't find something to do, then we should actually find a place to sit until we do. So I'd like to talk about what I call waypoints. It's like a GPS where you put a waypoint in. Each day, I want to have a series of waypoints. When I'm feeling weary and heavy laden, I'm going to sit down and take that time. And so I'd love to talk about that one. Salmon, on their way upstream against white water, can only go for about 15 seconds against that heavy rushing torrent. Then they have to pull aside and rest up in a backwater before getting the energy to go back in again. In our culture, we can't keep on doing it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Last summer, we went to the Elwha River, and there was a bridge across the river where there was this little, there was a big eddy on the side, which eddy is like when the backwater, basically, it's when the water pauses.
Yeah.
And there was 30 salmon just hanging out right there. We just got to stand on the bridge and watch them, and we probably stood there for an hour. We were just on a hike, and we were just like, salmon. They're so cool.
Oh, darling, isn't that the perfect example about how we could behave at a time like this? We are going upstream. The tide is coming the other way. There's no question about that. But we don't have to condemn the tide coming. That's natural.
Mm-hmm.
But it's natural for us to pull aside and be restored with hope to be able to go back into the fray once again.
Yeah, it's super important. Like I said last week, I'm super overwhelmed. There is a lot of information out there. There's a lot of things happening with protests and the virus and everything. I'm moving soon. There are a million things up in the air. And as important as it is to address those things, it's important to do it at a time where you are ready and can think, period. You need to have that time of rest so that your brain can still function in order to think about these important issues.
Yes.
So next week, we will be thinking about waypoints and times throughout our day where we can stop and take a break so that we're ready to process all the information that's going on, so that we're prepared to reach our hand into that waterfall and grab a little droplet and make sure that we take the time to ponder that. So that's what we'll think about this week, and we'll get back to you next week. I'm Faye Schmidt. This is Graham Kerr. This has been Tea at 3, and we'll see you next week. And if you're still here, something that would really help us out is if you subscribe to this channel, and please leave a comment. We like to keep your comments in mind during our conversations, and go ahead and like the video if you liked watching. Thanks.
I think it's time I had a pedicure because I've spent so much of my life with my foot in my mouth.
We were just saying that both Graham and I have hair appointments on Friday, and we're disproportionately excited.
We're very excited.
We're
But
very
then my favorite joke is one of the Beatles who was asked, signing on for the British Army, "Are you constipated?" "No, I'm Church of England."
That's fabulous.